In addition to Secretary Hegseth, by the way, we will hear from the president momentarily as Andrew Borene joins us right now. Welcome back, Andrew. He's a senior fellow at the National Security Institute to have these conversations. What would you say? I mean, Hegseth's going to give us the briefing, but what would you say about the idea of this being a relatively short war as we sit here and talk on day 6?
Yeah, I think important to think about the fact that the last 20 years of Iraq and Afghanistan were heavily ground troop centric. The array of U.S. military assets and resources in the Iranian region do not reflect a power mix akin to what we would have seen in 2003 or even in the early 1990s with the liberation of Kuwait. We see hundreds and hundreds of Tomahawk tubes. We see multiple destroyers and aircraft carriers. We've even seen U.S. low-cost drone launching systems and what are called HIMARS that are advanced rockets. And so I think what needs to be taken from that is not necessarily a number of weeks, but as I assess it, that this may be a very intense and violent and short duration of really degrading the Iranian clerical ideological leadership, destroying those nuclear sites. And also we can see this, it's quite evident that the Iranian Navy and Revolutionary Guard Corps is being attacked extremely heavily, even in their ground troop sites. But it's all indirect fire. It does not appear to be looking like it's going to be a ground invasion or a ground occupation.
Not even by the Kurds. All this talk about possibly arming the Kurds to come in on the ground and take the regime down once the air campaign is done. I mean, do you think that will happen? Do you think it should happen?
Well, I think if we look at kind of the history of warfare, there are some kind of slogans or conventional wisdom things that come to mind, such as if you want to own the hill, you're going to have to stand on it. And so the United States and Israel and other allies, because it sure looks like Iran is lashing out with just indirect fire attacks on anyone in its neighborhood right now, including Turkey. Other folks are going to step in also to stop really what has been the worst acting terrorist state sponsor of terrorism for decades. And as that happens, someone's going to have to go stand on the hill and fill a power vacuum. What I'm reading when we talk about the Kurds or we talk about other armed groups, that would kind of look like an insurgency, or it could look like a popular revolt. We're not quite sure what that's going to look like and who might step into the vacuum. And I think that there are question marks, but I haven't seen anyone, to my knowledge, talking about a U.S. ground troop invasion or even other allied nations. I think we're talking about, and for what it's worth, the Kurds do actually live in Iran, many of them, and in many ways, in my humble opinion, have lived under the oppression from a number of their neighbors. So if the Kurds move in, I imagine other minority groups might also move in. And Iran has been living under a totalitarian state by a religious minority of its own people. So I think there may be a tipping point at which Iranians, which might include Kurds, might include non-extremist Muslims, might include Christians. There's a very minority, small Jewish population as well. But I think that it is possible we could see a popular uprising, and it wouldn't only be Kurdish-led. It would be probably a diverse mix of Iranians who've had enough of how they've been treated for 47 years.
Yeah. Might it work? I mean, that's the question. Where does this all end in your mind?
I wish I had a crystal ball and I could tell you. I think there's again a lot of conventional wisdom, and in the last 6 months, I think we've seen that some conventional wisdom has not necessarily held true. What was achieved in Venezuela with absolute resolve. The notion that B-2s could drop bombs on Iranian nuclear sites and not prompt the onset of World War III. These were surprise actions, and I'm not sure that the conventional wisdom always pans out. So I think it's kind of anybody's guess. There's an old maxim, I believe, the General Powell Doctrine: if you break it, you buy it. Meaning, if the United States exerts military force and takes out another government, well, then the United States has to rebuild that institution or that space. If Iran fragmented, perhaps part of it would be allied with the United States,
Right.
and part of it would be less amenable. Very difficult to say where this ends. But I'm not seeing indications of ground forces or long-term counterinsurgency strategies.
But let's go back to Andrew Borene, who was with us before we went to the president, and focus not on his soccer comments, but on his Iran comments about the war. Okay, Andrew?
I think you forgot about Taylor Swift.
Listening. That's fine. That's fair. That's 100% fair. So we put the Leo Messi, the
I'm
president,
a Swiftie dad.
And that would be that.
Yeah.
Me too. Yeah, me too. There are a lot of Taylor Swift fans in my house too. So that would be quite the golf foursome, right? Put those guys together. So you're probably right. When he was talking about the war, I was listening, and it was interesting because he started on talking about how successful in his view things have been from the United States perspective. Oh, we're decimating the air defenses. They have no communications and all this kind of thing. And then he started talking about. And we talked about this a little bit yesterday, reports that Iran wants to find an off-ramp. They're calling and they want to make a deal. And he said, but we want to fight now more than they do. What do you make of that?
Well, I can't speak to that particular comment, but I think it's fairly clear that this administration and this president do seek to provide off-ramps. It's not always super palatable if what you wanted to see perhaps was a free democratic Venezuela. He did mention Ms. Rodriguez, for instance. But I think that clearly this is a very what we might call realist foreign policy coming from this White House. And they look to achieve leverage, and they look to achieve outcomes. And if the outcome desired is the removal of a nuclear-capable Iran, if the outcome desired is an Iran that doesn't have a Revolutionary Guard Corps and a Quds force that is training and arming and equipping Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthis, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, this massive global terror network, if those are the desired end states, I think it is possible that, I think another quote that the president said, I read just a few hours ago, was that he wanted to have a say in who was appointed to run Iran, or something to that effect. And I think it's fairly clear that he means it when he says that kind of thing. So, back to our earlier conversation, could there be a popular uprising? Perhaps. Could the Kurds play a role in that? Perhaps. Could more rational leaders from within the ruling class, the ideological class, clerical class of Iran step up and say that they want to work with the United States? I do think it might be possible. Something like that could be achieved, an off-ramp.
Andrew, thank you so much for all the extra time today. We appreciate it, Andrew Borene. I feel like